During the Great Migration, millions of African Americans left the South and traveled north to places such as Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia. Tony Chandler is one of the millions who found himself in the middle of that migration. Born in Kingstree, South Carolina, a small farming community in the heart of the Palmetto State, Chandler left with no big parade, rather with just $1.50 in his pocket.
It was 1:30 in the afternoon, December the 28th, and we pulled out. And we traveled all night.
Mr. Chandler has extremely vivid memories of his life, as he can retell the story of his departure from the South, even after the event took place over 50 years ago.
Okay. It was December 1955. One sunny afternoon, my cousin came down from Washington, D.C. for the holiday. And my brother, two of my brother was down also. We all drove down. And then how I got to come back to Washington, D.C., my brother went to see his girlfriend, and my cousin was ready to go back, and he wasn't there. So he waited a while, and he asked me if I wanted to go back. And I said, oh yeah, let me go and ask my mother. So I asked my mother, and she says, okay.
From Kingstree, Mr. Chandler arrived in Washington, D.C. about 3 in the morning, and soon after his arrival, went right to work.
Okay, the first job I had, I was I worked at a hotel. I was a helper in the kitchen to the chef. That was the first job I had.
From his job at the restaurant, Mr. Chandler went to what would be one of his more fascinating jobs.
And I got a job with air terminal services. I used to work with taking the newspaper and the magazines and all that stuff, keep the stands full up and everything. And I left that job, and then I went to...
It was not the job that he performed that was particularly interesting, but rather who he met while he was on the job.
Well, when I was working at the airport, I met Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Rick Nelson, and a few other movie stars came to, because I was working at the Washington National Airport at the time.
In June of 1961, Chandler again moved north, leaving the capital for the city of brotherly love. Upon his arrival, he realized the vast difference in the north he thought he would see and the reality he faced in Philadelphia.
So there was a bar there, abroad in Columbia, that after they said everything was integrated, you could go in the bar, and but if you go in the bar, the bartender would serve you, and every time you finish your glass, he would throw it in the trash. And I thought it was like some kind of joke, you know. And so for first I didn't believe it, but my friend that I was staying with, this was in either 61 or 62. It was one of those years. And so he came back home and he told me, he said, the guy just, I said, you got to be kidding. He said, yeah. And so actually I went with him, and that's what the guy did. And so he said that he said, I just should just sit here all night and then let him smash up all of his glass. I said, nah, let's go, you know. I said, you know, they don't want us around. And then we left. But that's the only time I really, you know, I really feel it and experience it.
This example of racism proved a point that Chandler today can explain really easily.
But the segregation in the South, it was a vast difference, because I grew up close to, there was 9 brothers, and we did everything together. We had a baseball team, we went fishing together, we went swimming together, we did everything together. And one afternoon, I was coming from my girlfriend's house,
Chandler's experiences in the North were not all negative. After a job at a hotel, Chandler saw himself going to the Sheet Metal Workers Union, where he would make an impact and advance up the ranks.
Because I think I negotiated, let's see, 1, 2, during the time I was there, because most of the time our contract usually be for like either 3 or 4 years. We didn't get short time contract, we get them long time. Because I find the way out, that's what I was a contract negotiator too. Because I find out that if you get a long time contract, it's easy to negotiate.
However, after going to college, a task that Chandler believes is one of his better moments in his life, he found himself leaving the Sheet Metal Workers Union of MECO and moving into a position with the U.S. Mint.
And so we went in, my wife and I, and we went to the, just reading around stuff, and they says job applicants on the 2nd floor. And so we went up there, and I was looking through the jobs, the applicants, and then I saw this one. I said, well, this is song interesting.
It was at the Mint where Chandler was able to showcase his creativity.
Sandblasting,
Yeah.
That's what it's called. You have to cover up this part here, cut this part here out. You had a scalpel knife, and you had to cut it out, and then you put it in this machine, and then you sand it, you blow it off, you pull the tape off, and then it comes out, looking like that.
And the sandblasting, did that make it?
That's what put this silver thing here. See, this here will shine up with little brushes and polish, looking through a microscope. And so that part would be shined up, and then after you shine it up, you put the tape on it, and then you cut this part out.
While working at the Mint, Chandler was able to be involved in one of his prouder moments, working on the medals for Pope John Paul II and Nelson Mandela.
Making the medal for Nelson Mandela, the gold medal, and the medal for the Pope. I think that was my crowning achievement.
Is there any particular reason why those two?
Well, it's because Mandela and the Pope is two of the most, I'll say, men in leadership position in the world, and that they're well known all over the world. And so if I had a hand in doing something just for them, then I'm proud of that.
After retiring from the Mint in the early 2000s, Mr. Chandler realizes that his life would have been vastly different if he did not leave South Carolina.
I know I wouldn't have the opportunity that I had. That's for sure. Because there was one thing that I wanted to do, and I wanted to go to college. And I wanted to be a teacher or a lawyer. And when I got to the 11th grade and I see this wasn't going to happen, and then that's when I made my move. I said, well, I just may as well go try and make the best out of what I can.
Right.
Study of history, as well as his life experiences, Mr. Chandler is able to give his own advice to everyone.
The most important thing I learned is to treat people fairly and be honest to them. And, treat people the way you like.